Thank you for joining me again on this Thursday morning. Keith Tebow from FRCMedia. We just spoke a little while ago to Mayor Paul Coogan concerning the governor's announcement this week of reopening the Commonwealth in terms of its 4 phases. We want to talk about how this will impact the business community. In the past, we've been holding weekly discussions with the One SouthCoast Chamber. We've been holding them on Monday, but because we knew the governor was going to release his plans on Monday, we sort of postponed that and are going to do that today. So I'm pleased to be joined by the co-CEOs of the One SouthCoast Chamber, Rick Kidder and Michael O'Sullivan. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me. Good morning.
Good morning, Keith. How are you?
I am well. Let me ask both of you this first question, and Mike, maybe I'll have you answer first. In general, you've had a few days to look over the governor's proposal on the reopening of the Commonwealth in the different phases. We're just in the beginning phases of phase number 1. I guess what's your general impressions of the intentions of the governor, Mike?
I know the governor is looking for, he wants to do this safely. He's happy to be reopening, but he wants to do it very, very safely. I've sat on a couple calls with Lieutenant Governor Polito and with Secretary Keneally, and the biggest concern is making sure that everybody does this safely. And that's incredibly important, because if we don't do it safely, we'll be shutting down again sometime in, over the next few months. And we don't need that. So the emphasis is on safety and making sure that it works for customers, that it works for the businesses, which is why we're doing it in such a measured way, and with the different phases. And I think, we do hear people say, well, why am I in phase 2? Why am I in phase 3? I'd rather be in phase 1. You can always debate those types of things, but it's important that we do this slowly and do it the right way.
Rick, how about from your point?
I agree completely. I think that all of this is being done not only with an abundance of caution, but with a sense that we would like to go through this process of reopening once. We don't want to go through this process of reopening, then pulling back, and then going through that same series of phases again. That's going to be an interruption to the economy that some businesses, quite frankly, would not survive. It's challenging enough, and it's been challenging enough, but we believe that the governor's approach is one that is measured. It's one that's going to give us the greatest possible chance of opening once.
All right, so let me ask you, and again, either one of you can answer the question. What are you hearing from your members in terms of some of those that can open? I know, this week, some manufacturing sectors can open, construction, some other healthcare providers, places of worship. So I guess what are you hearing in general in terms of some of your members and how they're going to adapt to the restrictions that go along with opening?
We're hearing that, there's a lot of places that really want to follow exactly what the guidelines are set by the government. But we're also hearing that there's some that are not. So it's important that everybody follow the guidelines. But, most importantly, people are very excited at the opportunity to get back to business. And those that are not in phase 1, which was this week, they just want to make sure that they're ready next week, that they're doing everything that they can do, sanitizing their offices and things like that, reworking and setting up their offices to be, so the workers are social distanced, and that type of thing.
And there are some companies that are luckier than others. In our case, for example, we will be able to open up our offices at some point in the next couple of weeks, once we make sure that we're fully sanitized. But for us, we are already more than 6 feet apart. We don't have workers on top of each other. So we're fortunate. It's going to vary from business to business with their enthusiasm for this approach. But by and large, we've heard companies want to comply. But as always, there's no way that these rules can actually call on every type of business that there is. So there are always questions about, where do I fit? Where do I go? And so that's a challenge that's going to be addressed over time.
And I also know that for a number of businesses, even though they may be allowed to open in some way, shape, or form, doesn't mean they will. And I guess that's another one of the personal questions and checklists that all these businesses need to go through in terms of whether they feel they can be safe for their customers or even their employees. Is that correct?
That's true. We just heard, I heard yesterday that Cox Communications, who actually rents an office from us for their sales staff, they're not going to be getting back into the office until September. Of course, it was either last week or the week before, it was Mass Mutual, who's an enormous employer in Massachusetts, announced that they're not going to have people come back for quite a while as well. They just feel like, you know what, the way we're working, it's we put it together, it works, and they don't want to put people at risk. They just feel like we'll wait.
And I think actually one of the side benefits of all of this is that we've actually hit the point where we've actually developed some efficiencies. And many of these companies have become more efficient by having people working from home in a lot of ways and not seen a reduction in productivity. And so when that's handled correctly, there are going to be many companies that say, okay, working virtually is going to be more a part of our game plan in the future than they'd ever envisioned.
One item that I want to ask you, Mike, about with being in the office in Fall River, and I approached this with Mayor Coogan this morning in our conversation, was the fact that the reopening plans of Massachusetts and Rhode Island, there are some things that are similar, but there are others that are different. I believe in Massachusetts, things like barbers and hair salons may open as early as next week, where in Rhode Island, we're still unsure. But in Rhode Island, they've opened up some of their restaurant businesses to, outdoor seating. With Fall River being so close to Tiverton, Rhode Island, and also, on the other end, heading west of Providence, is that a potential issue for some of those industries where, they may be open in one state but not another?
We haven't heard much. We haven't heard much chatter about that from our businesses. They're always concerned about what's happening in Rhode Island, but right now the biggest concern is just making sure that they can do what they can do legally within the state of Massachusetts and make sure that they completely understand the guidelines and how to get open. They're not really as focused on what's happening in Rhode Island, even though it is right next door.
Yeah.
I think there's one other factor in all of that, if you don't mind my popping
Sure.
in. We are still at the point where the federal $600 a week unemployment kicker stipend goes through the end of July, so that employers are not getting intense emotion from their own employees about returning. The PPP is still in effect, and so there are employers who are able to handle some of their costs in ways that they otherwise would not. I think you'd hear a lot more discontent about when can I open when those things go away. And if those things go away before we're able to reopen, you may hear more discontent. I think right now the government did a pretty good job of allowing us that cushion to make it work.
Yeah. Now I want to talk about some good plans and parts of the chamber with the reopening happening. I know that Rick and Mike, the chamber is planning on a special promotion to help celebrate those businesses that will open across the phases. Rick, why don't you tell us about that?
Sure. We're actually starting a promotion called Signs of Life, and it's signs of our economic life. It's life going back to normal. That's the idea. So we're going to be soliciting and collecting pictures from a lot of our companies that are reopening. And start putting together a Facebook promotion at each phase of the economy. We believe we have a sponsor for this who may or may not be in the sign business. So Signs of Life may be a program where we can start to do the things that we do best, which is celebrate the great stuff. And that great stuff is going to be reopening. So you'll see this in our social media outlets. You'll see it in our print production, and you'll see it in as many news outlets as we can possibly get it, because we want to show the great signs of life of our economy coming back.
And that's always good to celebrate what we hope will be life is normal sooner rather than later. Now, people who are watching this right now, and I'm actually going to change the view here so maybe you can see it a little better. You can see that both Rick and Mike look like they're wearing their colleges on their, not on their sleeves, but on their shirts and on their pennants. Talk about College Day that's coming up tomorrow, Mike.
This is the 7th year, and for what originally was the Fall River Chamber starting the Education Committee doing a promotion called College Day. And it was what it's been in the past is business leaders converging on the schools, getting in, and I don't mean just high schools, but getting into the elementary schools, the middle schools, the high schools, and just being able to talk to the kids in the community about going to college. And we try to start young so that the kids can get a good feel at a young age that, you know what, maybe my parents didn't go to college, but I can. And what do I need to go to college? And, you know, they need to work hard in school and those types of things. But it's really to just kind of promote the concept of going to college. This year, obviously, the kids are not in the classroom, so it's changed a lot. And we kind of turned over the program a little bit to Brianna Alves and Jen Lorenzo, and then Julie Gagliardi from Bay Coast Bank and Melissa Panchley from Cairn Financial Services. And they have taken the ball and just run with it as a virtual promotion. And they created a Facebook page for SoCo College Day 2020. They've got it's set up on Instagram, it's set up on LinkedIn, Twitter, it's set up all over the place. And the idea is to promote going to college. And of course, this year it's such an interesting year for college seniors. But you know, like Somerset Berkeley High School, they've got videos that their college freshmen have been sharing and working with seniors on getting prepped to go to college. They've got videos that are set up with their graduating seniors, talking to sophomores and juniors about what you need to do to prep to get yourself ready to be, you know, for the admissions process. There's a lot of really, really great stuff happening. We've got Laura Douglas, the president of Bristol Community College, Chancellor Johnson from UMass Dartmouth, Fred Clark from Bridgewater State, and I should know the gentleman's name and it's escaping me, but the leader at Mass Maritime Academy. They're all doing videos promoting going to college, and we're going to have videos from both mayors of our gateway cities talking about college. And of course, you know, Mayor Coogan is a former educator. Mayor Mitchell as a former prosecutor. You know, they both have great history and great education and background. So it's just it's a really great event this year. We've just taken it and completely pivoted, and we're getting great following on social media.
And Rick, I guess the message is it doesn't matter whether you plan to go to Harvard or Villanova or Fitchburg State University, which is a state school here in Massachusetts. The message is higher education is very important and will lead to a lot more opportunity.
It is. I mean, that's a big part of this message. And also in an area like ours where we have been challenged in the arena of educational attainment, we recognize that it's actually the gateway for a lot of folks to improve themselves economically and to build a better life. Now, I freely admit that I was Harvard's admissions mistake back in 1973. But, you know, even though I was their mistake, I managed to sneak through and graduate from there. And I'll tell you, it was a wonderful opportunity just to be in an environment with other people who wanted to learn and other people with new and fresh ideas. So college is a wonderful, unique experience. And we really hope that as many as possible in our area are able to take advantage of that great opportunity.
Well, Rick and Mike from the One SouthCoast Chamber, as always, thank you for joining us, and we will talk again soon. Take care. All right. Again, I want to thank Rick Kidder and Mike O'Sullivan, the co-CEOs of the One SouthCoast Chamber, for joining us today. And also want to thank you for joining us on this Thursday. I'm Keith Tebow from FRCmedia. Have a great day, and we'll talk again soon.